Everyone, and welcome to This Is Why We Fight. I'm Jo.
And I'm Jordan. I hope you're all well.
Yes, indeed. Early birds are here. Very good to see you all, as always. English Will is here. Andrew is here. That Europa News person. Fearless Bear is here. Sir Francis. Reboot Needed. Philomena is here. Anglo-Saxon is here.
With his bonjour.
Bonjour to you. And Jonathan is here. Daffod is here. It's good to see you, Daffod. It's been not Mina's here. Okay. Thank you all for turning up early. We've got a lot to get through. Was he?
I hope work is good for you as well, by the way.
Anyway, we're so glad to have the team with us. A lot we want to get through this evening.
Before we start, do you remember how a little while ago I was saying that there's no fireworks around me?
Yes, they just started.
There's no fireworks galore.
Yeah, obviously anyone streaming this evening is probably going to have the same problem, so we'll just apologise in advance and hope it doesn't.
Unless they're streaming from a board.
Well, yes.
Or an underground bunker because they're actually government-paid shills.
No, government-paid shills don't stream. What are you talking about?
Why would they ever do that?
No, I don't believe it for a second. Oh, well, English Will straight in there.
They're careful.
Burn Westminster down. Of course, we are talking about Minecraft, that game that we all like to play when we're not here on the stream. Yes, that Minecraft Westminster, terrible design. I do agree. Should start over with that. Yes. So good evening, everyone. For those of us who are sane and normal, it is a night of not celebration, actually. It was an almost, wasn't it? An almost maybe. But we hope you've had a safe evening. We hope that you have had fun. We thought, as it is the 5th of November, and as it's Friday, we're getting close to my favourite time of year. There's no prizes for guessing what that is at this point.
Would it be like that nice little period? I was just trying to remember the name of it. Thank you. I was trying to delay as much as possible. Yes, Easter. Easter was the one I meant.
Yes, Easter. Of course it's Easter. So tonight we thought we would revisit a concept that we ran by you a few months ago. Obviously, time and events have moved on since we last raised this question. What will the future be? What do we want it to be? So that's what we want to focus on this evening. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fantasy. It's going to be picturing the outcome of our efforts now. Anglo-Saxon sometimes. Then again, they would have just replaced them with more, wouldn't they? So we've come to the conclusion that we have spent a goodly amount of time, wasted a goodly amount of time talking about the system that harms us, the system that I now refer to as a gaping wound in our society. That's done. I don't care. I don't care about that system. It's illegitimate. We now need to focus on what we want to build and create. And that's what tonight is about. What would you like? What do you think of as no such thing as perfection, really, as a better society, as a wholesome society, a productive society?
A nice voluntarist society.
That's it. Brilliant.
Yeah. There you go. The stream's over. Have a nice day, everyone. No, that's what I want.
Unless, can you imagine anyone turning up now? Thank you all for joining us.
It's not only what I want, because I think it would be rather lovely, but it's what I think we need. Yes. And without going down that route, we're always going to be in the same cycle of constantly banging our head against this goddamn wall. We've been reading something recently, and it boggles the mind how this person who knows so much about what's going on constantly puts up this stupid idea that we can just vote our way out of it. Like, if we had the right man in the White House or in Downing Street or whatever, we'd be able to get our way out of this. It's like, no, lad, that's not going to work. What we need is an actual solution, and the actual solution is we need a nice voluntarist society.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it bears repeating. Anyone in authority I would say, in any country at this point, apart from a small exception, are selected, not elected. The system is broken. We cannot fix it.
No, it's not broken. It's designed to work this way.
Well, broken for us. I mean,
fair
it's doing exactly what it was designed to do, and that is not work for us.
point.
My stepdad's not mean suggested accountability. I like that because that falls under personal responsibility, which we are definitely for. Holding people to account for their wrongdoings, credit where it's due, shaming people for their awful behaviour. I'm down with public shaming, but this is not a negative stream tonight. So
Get the socks.
Oh yes, stocks definitely. We still have a vacancy if anyone wishes to apply for the job of chief slapper.
I thought it was my job.
Yeah, but you can't be everywhere at once. We're going to need at least a chief slapper.
Well, then it's not a chief, is it? It's merely.
It's the chief slapper in each town and city. And also, Boudica has joined us this evening. Welcome to you, my dear. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yay! Oh, I thought that was her. I'm just going to say, you just made me insult someone. How dare you? How dare you? Yeah, Boudica, I know that you're speaking loud, but we can't hear you.
Unmute her.
She's not muted.
Oh, fair enough.
Or at least not my end. Right, I'll go through a few comments while we wait for her to fix things. To be fair, she had a bit of a power issue just before the stream, so fingers crossed it's fixed. One Easy Money says the system has to fall. Yes, it does. This system, we've given so much of ourselves to it, not through choice in many cases. But the more time and effort we spend on this system, the less time and effort we spend on building something truly amazing.
It's really clever how they constantly do things to draw you back into it.
Yeah.
Like just when you think you're out, they say something, and then you're forced to argue against it once again.
Yes.
A prime example of this is let's get going on. Let me think. They just put out lots of little things. Like recently, the US Armed Forces and British Armed Forces war game session, and they're making a thing in the media about how the Americans quit. They had to restart the training exercise because it wasn't going well for them. And then obviously the Americans came out and said, "Oh no, this is not true." Blah 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 blah. It's a wonderful little game that they play. They get you at all times. They can get you with things like the climate change, something you're passionate about. They can get you with things like the armed forces thing, if that's something you're passionate about, and they can get you with other things like cars.
Yes, appealing to your sense of pride and duty.
There you go. That's what I was trying to get. They appeal to your sense of pride, and then it's just they spray. They basically take a shotgun to the wall and see what sticks.
Yes, when you said they spray. Yeah, I think you're going to bring up like cats spraying, Do
you know those times you say something and then you think that was the wrong word, and you have to try and divert quickly?
Where that was going. Yeah, we don't do vulgar on this show. Everyone who knows us knows that, but I did wonder where that was going. I want to say a quick few hellos. Do you want to see if you can give Boudica a hand? See if there's anything we can do. Well, I quickly go this. Good evening to Tash. Good evening to, I've already covered you, English Will, thank you. Xanth is here, good evening to you. Will Free Gamer is here, good evening to you. Who else is here? Michael is here, hello to you, sir. Josie is here, good evening from Colin and Josie from West Yorkshire. Always a pleasure to have you, thank you for joining us. Drust is here. Good evening to you, Drust. Fearless Bear, hello. Unless I've mentioned you might get 2 mentions. It's not favouritism, I promise. It's just my awful memory. Okay, I think we've caught up. No one else is getting a mention now. You guys are the main guys. You got here early, so that's it. Right, okay, let's see if this has worked. Are you there, Boudica? From the tribe I Seni.
I am here. Can you hear me? Okay, I must be holding my head the right way then.
I was just typing out instructions. Just when you said hello, I was just about to get ready to press send. God damn it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
we're so glad to have you.
Yes, it's always lovely to hang out. So I have missed most of what you've talked about. I know what the stream's about, but where have you gotten with all of that?
We're just coming up with, in fact, this is a question for the chat as well, but I'd like to hear Boudica's take on this. What do you envisage as a fundamentally improved society, a society that you want to be a part of? What, if you can try and visualize it and picture it, what does it look like to you? I said this before. For me, it's almost like a picture postcard of like a 1950s village, this kind of age of innocence where behavioral standards were just absolutely fabulous. People treated each other well. Nobody dressed like sort of, people you don't want your children to be with. Yes. There were proper communities. You had a police officer in your community who lived in your community. They didn't take advantage of their position. They didn't abuse people.
Right.
It was just really all about the people, and everyone knew everyone, and everyone cared about everyone, and all of those standards were raised across the board. I love that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the ideal sort of future, and I think it's also a simpler way of living as well. Right now we have everything at our disposal. You want something, you order it. You want to go somewhere. Well, I guess maybe not right now. You can't just go anywhere, but you know what I mean? Like there's really nothing that our imaginations cannot think of that we can do. We can order it, we can have it, we can, have it quickly. And I think that there is a lot that's been lost with that convenience and with that sort of wants on demand sort of lifestyle. So I think, with a simpler life, you might have your home, but within that home, a lot of things are handcrafted, whether by yourself or whether by the local fill in the blank, right? Local furniture maker, local shoemaker, local tailor, whatever. Your neighbors. You might not know them well, but you know them to recognize them as you pass on the street. You know them well enough that, at community events, you can, sort of say hello when it's, you know who they are, sort of thing. So to me, the vision of the future is a quality life, but it's a simpler life.
Yes.
We might, and that life is full of people who are near and dear to us, and the things that we need to give our lives that quality, the furniture, the buildings, the recreational activities, those things may take time to produce, but they are of quality and they last. And we might not have everything, and we might not have, a massive abundance like we do now, but what we have is going to be, really good quality stuff. And that's kind of what I see in terms of the future. And I think that leaves a lot of space for creativity as well.
Yes. Yeah, because I think a lot of things that we have now, we don't actually need. We just want them, right? Mm-hmm. So we could quite easily get along without them. And again, we are in a position where we can take from the past the things that worked and meld them with the advances we've made in the future. So we don't have to go back to this sort of pre-techno age. We can definitely have the best of both worlds. The point is, it's a blank slate for us, isn't it? It's, tabula rasa. we can create the change we want to see in the world. This is the vehicle for it. This is the opportunity to create the very things we've probably spent our entire lives complaining no longer exist, or have been watered down or diluted, or just completely eradicated.
We're lucky in that we exist in a time of pretty much unbridled chaos. And while it's what they want, because it will enable them to conduct change, it also works for us as well. Because of the chaos, there is a void. There is something for us to step into. Nobody is happy with the current situation. Doesn't matter whether you're left or right, or your head's screwed on, or you're completely crazy. No one is happy with how things are at the moment. Everyone is looking for something better.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments I want to read out before we carry on. The first one from One Easy Money. The advantages of this are just obvious to everyone. That knows you by your first name and knows things about each other. Like walking into a shop and someone's asked how your children are. It's such a little thing, but it really does make a difference. And you'll become a regular, and it builds loyalty, not only for you to that business, but for them to you as a customer. And you become more than just a customer. I mean, I've been complaining for years about this kind of very cold, clinical nature of service industry now. People send you an email, dear Mr. or dear Mrs., or they might even use your first name, like your friends or something. But you don't matter. You're just a number. You're just someone they don't want to have to deal with a complaint from. But they don't do it because they care. It's damage control. The second comment, you can answer to all these once I've got through these three. Zant says, we have the time to make it and the ability to afford that quality. Indeed, things have certainly changed. We'll cover that as well. And this one from Tash, who says, getting the government out of our way so that we have to organise things ourselves a whole lot more, even with volunteer work they are involved, in the Netherlands at least. That's a really good point. Volunteering is still learning a skill. I totally have no issue with that. Have an issue with coercion. If you're volunteering to do something, that's absolutely your choice. So what do we think about those 3 points, first of all?
I obviously agree with all of them. I really liked One Easy Money's comment. That's why I asked you to highlight it. That'd be lovely, being able to walk into a shop and actually know the shop owner and know the people who work there, and them actually know you, and then be able to say, oh yes, we've got this. We ordered this in. We don't have it this week, but we get it next week. Blah, blah, blah.
Or I'll put one aside for you because you're a regular loyal customer. It's just these little touches really make all the difference.
Yeah, personal is not. I don't like the term personal service, but that's what it is. I wonder, going back, how many customers a shop actually had?
Well, I think your village shops would have serviced the entire village, wouldn't they?
Plus, no. I mean, in terms of the number of people.
With different customers, or do you mean footfall?
I mean, like the number of different customers. Like, would it have been like 100 people who regularly came in? Would that have been all they needed to survive? How many do they need to survive nowadays?
Well, obviously a lot was different then, wasn't it? Because first of all, you didn't have this wage war going on. The workplace was predominantly a male environment. A lot of women were at home. There wasn't that competition. We didn't have open borders. There wasn't that competition for wages. So you could survive on one income, which meant that people could afford to buy from the local shops who weren't able to buy in bulk. The advent of the big supermarkets have obviously destroyed that industry.
Well, and the other thing is too, which is part of this, is that we have been conditioned to believe that you don't have a quality item unless you buy it from the supermarket. Buying food from the farmer, is kind of, lowbrow.
Yes.
Only, it's like, the good stuff is at the supermarket, and they've got, these nice displays, and they're all, nice lighting, and, nice packaging and stuff. And we've been conditioned to believe that, making things on your own or buying them from a local producer, even though it costs less and you get a superior product, that it is somehow inferior, which is completely backwards thinking when you really consider it. So we need to, if we want to have this life that we envision, with the small, tight-knit community and all of this, the place I think where we start with our own thinking and try and sort of break that conditioning. And it's hard because it's so easy to slip into it. I mean, I've caught myself doing it, even though I am fully aware of this stuff. And you just slip into it. And I think that's where we need to start, and I know you guys have talked about, buying from the local farmer. And, I'm all for that. But I think, really where that starts, to make that step from going from the supermarket to the farmer, that first step is actually changing your thinking, because we've been conditioned to believe that that's not, it's somehow inferior. It's somehow lowbrow. And
it's also cleanliness, isn't it? You've just reminded me of something we've never mentioned, I don't think, and certainly not that I've come across. When I was younger, my parents used to get our fruit and veg from market stalls, and I remember the potatoes used to be covered in mud. And I'm just thinking now, we've been convinced somehow that clean food is better, right? But clean food has been so processed, and God knows what they're cleaning it with. If there's no mud on your stuff, on your food that comes out of the ground, it's been through a process.
I had this same conversation yesterday with my nan.
Weird.
What? It is weird. We have not had this conversation before, Joe, but basically what happened was she had bought a bag of potatoes and had to throw most of them away because they were all frost damaged and horrible. And we were talking about it, and we said 20 years ago or so, you would buy your potatoes, they'd all have dirt on them. Nowadays, you don't see them sold that way. And since then, the quality of potatoes has started going down through the bloody floor.
Well, and the same thing goes with sort of the perfect vegetable, right? Like, do you see kind of a wonky apple sitting in your supermarket that's, kind of got dimples and, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not bruised or anything, but it just kind of grows oddly. You don't see sort of these imperfect vegetables. I mean, you don't find weird shaped carrots. You don't find, wonky shaped strawberries or apples or anything like that. It's all perfect. The stuff that isn't, sort of up to standard when it comes to, excuse me, the shape and the look, they toss, or, they process in other ways. Like the apples, they might, use those apples for applesauce or whatever. So, but there's this notion too that everything has to be perfect and perfectly hygienic and perfectly clean, and notion of hygiene, I think, or the definitions of hygiene, I think, are odd. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about the dirt on the potatoes. That's not unhygienic, because of course you take them home, and before you cook them, you're going to wash them.
Exactly.
Right. So you're not eating the dirt, but at the same time, the dirt then provides sort of a layer of protection and preservation of those potatoes. Because if you look at how to store potatoes in the winter, like in your basement or your cold room or whatever, it'll say, store them in like sand or dirt or sawdust or something.
Yeah. Dirt and straw, doesn't matter what it is. I was just going to say they're treating children like potatoes in a way, if you think about this analogy. I'm lucky enough to come from a generation where it was okay to pull the legs off spiders and eat them. Sorry, spiders. And it was okay to roll around in the dirt and get dirty, and it didn't matter. It wasn't unhygienic. It was just messy. And the answer to that, of course, was, you put your children in the bath and you'd wash all the dirt off, and it didn't harm us. And we had amazingly boosted immune systems. We didn't get ill. We didn't have these coughs and colds every 5 minutes like people do now. This sort of clinical pristine environment that they're trying to create is actually going to make us ill, or if it hasn't already. If the food is good enough to have a bit of the ground left on it, and as you say, we're not animals, we clean our food. We brush off dirt, or we throw it into a sink and rinse it. I mean, it's all about this idea, this kind of clinical idea of what is clean and what is healthy. And I hate it. It's very sort of antiseptic. Look, it just reminds me of hospitals. It's like society has become one big hospital, except the cleaner they make us, the more ill we become.
That's a good bloody way to put that. The cleaner they make things, the more sickness you see in society.
Well, and I remember hearing a story of my grandmother, who was a nurse by trade, and she had 4 children. And when her eldest was born, obviously she wasn't working then, but yeah, when her eldest was born, she cleaned everything. She bleached everything. And I mean, this is in the late 1950s. She cleaned everything. She bleached everything. Everything was spotless. And then she had her second child. Well, okay, so now she's got a toddler and a baby, and the standard of cleanliness fell. And I mean, it wasn't that everything all of a sudden was a dirt pit. It's just that she wasn't able to keep it to the same standard that she had been. So then her little toddler daughter started getting sick. Nothing terrible, just colds and sniffles and runny noses and stuff. But it was like she was always sick. And then, my grandmother had her third child. And what she noticed is that her second and third child didn't seem to be getting the colds and sniffles and coughs as much as the eldest. And she kind of put 2 and 2 together, even, way back in the day, that, it might have something to do with the fact that when she was sort of in her infancy, everything was so sterile in the house, and she just couldn't keep up with it as she had subsequent children. So, I mean, while the house was still clean, and they were still baking from scratch, and again, this is into the 1960s now, the oldest suffered because of that. And this is my aunt. I mean, she's still around. She's, in her 70s now, or going into her 70s. But I remember hearing that story, and it's like, oh, okay, yes, we need to have cleanliness. We need to be hygienic, but we also need to look at what that means. Good old-fashioned soap and water is more than sufficient for pretty much everything. Washing your bodies, washing your food, washing your floors, your walls, your tables, everything that would need to be done. You don't need antibacterial, blah, blah, blah. You don't need, harsh chemicals. I mean, I'm sure there's a purpose for harsh chemicals, in some instances, but I think
maybe
those
cleaning
instances
your
would
toilet or your drains, but not inside your home.
Even your toilet, even the toilet, okay, I mean, yes, that's kind of an awful job. And, it sees, it sees some stuff.
It sees some action.
Let's face it. The average toilet is a horror show from time to time.
It is.
You have children. Big children.
Well, even think about it. You get someone who's ill. It's going to see a lot of work, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to cleaning it, you don't need these harsh chemicals to kill any potential germs that are there. I use just a plant-based, essential oil, scented, all-purpose cleaner. I pour a couple of glugs in the toilet. I use the brush. It does a fine job, and then I use the same thing to sort of clean the outside. I have 2 teenage boys, and they don't know how to aim if their life depended on it. So
I have the same problem with my son. Yes.
It's like, seriously, guys, what do? Just go in there and
close your eyes and hope for the best. Just start dancing, while you're going. I will agree, though. I mean, a lot of the sort of build up inside is because it's not scrubbed regularly, and a bit of elbow grease actually takes care of that. If you let it build up, then yes, it's a major job to shift it. But again, this convenience. It's just, I'll just spray something in there and it will do the job for me.
Yeah,
we really do need to get back to basics on this.
And that was the other thing that I wanted to mention as well, that I forgot about. So thank you. The other conditioning that we've been through is this notion that, our time is so precious. We need to have all of these conveniences to save ourselves time. Mm-hmm. And I actually began to ask myself this a few years ago. It's like, time for what?
Like time to be a wage slave, pay those taxes.
Maybe. But it's like, to me, there are some jobs, like jobs around the house, gardening, that sort of thing. Yes, this stuff takes my time, but I don't see it as a waste of time. I don't see it as, as work necessarily, even though it is. But I see
cooking.
it.
It's like putting together a recipe from scratch. Do you consider that work or part of the journey to a good meal? We've got to change our perspective.
Right.
It comes back to what Boudica said earlier on about changing the mentality.
Yeah. Yes. It's not a waste at all. It all serves a purpose.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, we hear these things. It's like, you don't need a garden because it just takes so much time. And I mean, I've heard this from like my mother. She's like, I don't have time for gardening. Like, I don't have time for the weeding and it's just too much work. And it's like, what else are you doing? Like, seriously. I don't have time to bake. I don't have time to cook. What else are you doing? And I get that everybody's different and everybody has different commitments and different obligations in terms of, work and family and everything.
Maybe the question is, what else are you doing that's more important?
That could be, that's maybe a better way of looking at it, because, I don't see these things like, handcrafting things, things that take longer to produce when they're done well and they're done locally. I don't see, having to go to, 3 different farms to get food. I got to go to the one farm for dairy. I got to go to another farm for meat, another, a third farm for vegetables. I don't see that because that takes significantly longer than just going to the grocery store that's local to me, where I can get everything. I don't see going to those 3 farms though as a waste of time. Because it's like, I know I'm getting so much better of quality when it comes to what I'm getting. And just the experience is more enjoyable too, because a lot of the sort of farm markets that are around me, I don't know about you guys, but the farm markets that are around me, a lot of them are outside. And so you get to be outside and you're looking at the produce that comes from that farm, and it's just a more pleasurable experience. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, yes, this stuff is work if you want to get really technical. Yes, it takes time, but what's your definition of work? What's your definition of wasted time? Because, all of these convenient things that have been introduced slowly over time, it's like, saving time for what? Really?
Exactly. Saving time to do things or saving time to work so you can pay other people to do the things you don't have time for. And when you talk about making something from scratch, it's a journey. You're not wasting time. Even if you fail, you're not wasting time, because you are learning something. You are learning what not to do next time. We've moved so far away from where we should be, and so far away from being productive and happy. Is anyone happy working to pay for other people to do things in your home that you don't have time to do? To pay other people to raise your children because you can't be at home looking after them yourself because you're just too busy? How many school plays are we missing, or how many important milestones in our children's lives because of work.
How many average conversations? Just like bog standard normal conversations that you're missing between yourself and other family members.
Exactly. So going back to this 1950s village idea, I really think about the dynamics of it. Everyone had time to stop for a chat. Shopkeepers had time to talk to their customers. Customers had time to talk to the shopkeepers. Parents had time with their children. Children received actual attention from their parents, not just brushed off with, "I'm busy, don't interrupt me," which was basically my life growing up. Speak when you're spoken to, children should be seen and not heard, and all that. Look at all these things. They make these things into phrases and they laugh at us while we carry out their rotten plans, destroying our own families. It has to stop. And the way we stop it is we build a system that works for us, not against us. Just going back to the toilet thing, Roy has given us the answer. We could aim, we just don't bother. There you go. Thank you for that, Roy. We've always wondered. Oh, and Wilfrey Gamer says a nightlight might help with that. Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, this is a weird piece of knowledge that I have tucked away in my brain. They've done studies on this, and in men's toilets, if they were to paint a little fly or something on the inside of the bowl, splash is reduced dramatically because they aim at the little fly.
They need a target to. There you go, everyone. There's a DIY job for you this weekend.
Look, okay, here's the thing, right? This is something women don't take into account at all. I'm going to stand up for us.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Go on then.
You sit there, mate. You have a pleasant time of it. We have to stand there and look at a wall. It's not very exciting. Thereby, we get distracted.
What do you think we look at?
You could sit.
We look at a wall.
Oh, come on. We're not.
Or whatever
we're
not facing.
Effeminate weirdos. We're not going to sit.
Oh.
I don't trust cultures where they
the idea. What do you think we're looking at when we see oil paintings?
It doesn't matter. You can sit and just zone out. You're fine. I don't know. You tell me what the women
if you do that, you'll fall over.
Yeah. It's...
Like one of those animals when it freezes and goes into shock. Sorry.
I was going to say something earlier on. I can't bloody remember what it was. It was actually mildly important. Unusually so.
Well, hopefully it will come back to you. Greetings, visionary companion. Greetings from Seattle, land of cucks, clucks, grinning sociopaths with lip plugs. I don't know how I got that out.
I also misread that earlier on as little pugs. And either which way it works.
You're picking on dogs.
I don't know. Either way it works wonderfully.
Right. I got so engrossed in that conversation I stopped. Square says time-saving household products were invented to give women the time to spend in the workplace. Yeah, this is all really, really bad for us. And it's not that we've embraced it. I think we got to the point where we stopped preserving the things that were important. Mm-hmm. So the next generation just didn't have them for comparison. Very easy to go along with the norm, isn't it? To go with the flow. We need to make the flow these traditional ways of living.
It comes back to the mindset thing again.
Yes.
I've said it before on stream. They've spent so much money looking into this in terms of in the sporting realm. They've spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds and dollars looking at this now. Athletes who consistently envisage what they're going to do go out and do it better than those who don't.
Yeah.
It's the same with things like the placebo effect. We know that's real. That's a real thing. And the alternative, the nocebo, that's real as well. We need to start taking our mental visions much more seriously. If we start imagining it, and then if we start changing our behavior around it, it will slowly come into reality.
I do agree. And again, I'm just going back to these comments about changing the way we live. It's really bang on the nose. Everyone gets this. Mm. Doing things for pleasure is not some kind of crime or a sin. We've been conditioned to think if you're not working, then it has no purpose. Well, of course it has purpose. If you are not healthy of mind and body, then you do not create anything healthy from it. Talking to people, we've always said this, talking to people, it's the hardest thing in the world right now, because our society has been broken down to its worst components. People are suffering emotionally, mentally, and physically from the effects of decades and decades of brainwashing and poisoning our foods and all of the other things we've talked about time and time and time again. We really need to all make an effort wherever we can and within our capabilities to overcome these handicaps that we've placed on ourselves. It's not going to be the same for everyone, but if you change just one thing, it will be amazingly freeing, and it may help you to find the motivation to change one more thing, and then maybe one more thing. And before you know it, you've become the revolution in your own life. We've really got to change this mindset.
Become your own personal revolutionary.
Yeah, seriously. We'd even those of us who call ourselves awakened still fall back into the trap, don't we? We all do it occasionally. Some more than others, some less, but we still do it because it is a lifetime of inculcation that we now need to break away from. If we're going to have habits, let's form new, productive, healthy habits.
And I think one thing that we should keep in mind too when we're doing this is we need to be doing this for ourselves and our families. Mm-hmm. We don't do this because it's going to change the world. It's not. None of us by ourselves are going to change the world. Don't do it because you need approval from anyone else, because chances are these changes that you're going to make are going to be completely unnoticed by anyone other than yourself and maybe your immediate family. So, because I think that's maybe where some people might get hung up is, I've even caught myself doing it. It's like, well, I'm choosing not to buy from Amazon and buying local. That's not going to stop Amazon from making millions and billions of dollars a year. Mm-hmm. Don't get discouraged by that. Take comfort and satisfaction in doing these things, making these changes for yourself. It's deeply satisfying when you make a meal that has come out of your garden, or even just something. It doesn't even have to be a whole meal. Even if it's just you've added some tomatoes into your salad for dinner that came from your garden. It's deeply satisfying to make those small little changes. And maybe adding the tomatoes to your store-bought lettuce will encourage you next time to plant the lettuce too. And then plant a potato so that you can have some roasted potatoes to go with that homegrown salad. Oh, maybe then you'll want to make your own dressing. It keeps going from there. And like I said, I find it deeply satisfying doing these things for myself. Nobody really notices, other than
you
me.
do.
Not, and even my immediate, my husband and children. Oh,
and the dog apparently.
And the dog knows.
Before we go on to what's up on the screen, I just want to say Jordan made this point, a really good point. If you boycott someone like Amazon, you're not going to hurt Amazon. Boudica's dead right with that. But as Jordan pointed out the other day, the small shop or farm that you support instead, you're going to make a hell of a difference to them.
I believe that was Andrew.
Oh, sorry, Andrew.
I'll give credit. I don't mind. I don't mind taking it, but I'll give credit where it's due.
Well, whoever made the comment, they are absolutely correct. You're going to make the difference to a small business. That large corporation won't care. Mm-hmm. It will care when everyone starts doing it, but for now it won't care. It's not about hurting them. It's about boosting up a local business and making sure it's there for us when we need it, and making sure we are there for them when they need it.
It's such a great point, because it's so incredibly bloody true. Amazon is not going to care one jot if you don't buy from it. But the person who does care very much is the person who owns a shop down the road.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of why I asked earlier on. I wonder back in the day how many people actually needed to keep a shop going. probably would have been like less than 100 people. Nowadays, given rents and rates and various other bits and bobs, it's going to be more than that. But it's still going to be really important to that person.
Yes.
There's this wonderful post that I've seen on Telegram, but I've seen it on Facebook as well, actually. When you buy from a local business, you're not just buying like a CEO a new suit or whatever it was. You're buying dance lessons. You're buying, you're buying like a used minivan so they can go to the beach. Blah blah blah. It's a really wonderful sentiment. And once again, it comes back to the mentality thing. That slight shift of mentality from I'm going to hurt Amazon by not buying from them to I'm going to support another business, a local business, a small business, because I need what they're selling anyway, and it will do them much more good than it will do somebody else harm. The way forward and the way out of this is not trying to cause harm, but trying to cause good.
Yes. Because the business you're supporting is most likely going to be a business run by someone who agrees with your values. So you're not only supporting that business, but you are establishing that standard across the board. Mm-hmm. Those values will help you. They will keep you and your family and your children safe, your community safe. If we do not stand together, we will fall one at a time. So it's really important we do this. I wanted to bring up this comment from Josie. Thank you for this. It's lovely to go to the farm and see the real free-range hens with my own eyes, not read it on the box. You know, we're told so many lies. How do you know what you're buying is what it's labelled as? But with a picture like this, there's no doubt you can see
Whoa, 1 minute. There is mild doubt. This is from John. The pictures
the
from
point
John,
is,
it was valid.
The point is, you can see that these hens are free range. So the picture does actually tie in nicely with the comment. To see these things with your own eyes, to stop buying. You know, all of these things you're told about food, it's all marketing. It's a marketing campaign. Most of them aren't based on any truth. It's just a way to get you to buy it. But if we all started to use free range farms and buy organic and support local farmers and local businesses and support each other, imagine how strong we'd be. Imagine what we could face. Imagine the kind of communities we could build. Because that's really what this comes down to. Community isn't just houses and residents, it's businesses. Which is why we really push for localism, local thinking, buy local, shop local, make local, source local. It really could be its own revolution. And all we need to start the other system to just stop engaging with us is to create a new system and engage with that instead. That's all we need. Will says, working a job you hate to pay people to raise your children, a job you should love. It's alien, isn't it? It's
very well said.
Yep, I like that.
It's completely unnatural what we're doing.
Well, and it's unhealthy too, right? Like, I mean, I've been there. I mean, my children had gone to daycare, and while I never had a terrible experience with daycare, they were so much happier when I was no longer working, and I was home, and you know, we weren't having to leave the house at the crack of dawn, and we weren't, you know, getting home until supper time, you know, and then I had to make supper, and you know, they were just, life was less rushed, you know, and there was a better rhythm to it, and everybody was happier, including me. I hated working. I mean, all I could think about when I was at work was, how do I get home? You know, how do I get to a place where I don't have to work and I can be home all the time? And, you know, and then when we started homeschooling, it was sort of another step. Because, you know, even when I was, you know, the stay-at-home parent sort of thing, and they were going to public school, there was still a rush out the door in the morning, and you know, and then my day was disrupted because it was broken up with these trips out of the house to go pick them up,
And so when we started homeschooling, it changed again because now they could sleep and they could wake up naturally. I mean, I don't let them sleep all day. There is a point where I'll wake them up if they're still in bed. But, there isn't this rush to get out the door. They can have breakfast. Sometimes they don't want to eat first thing when they get up. Sometimes they have breakfast a little later. Well, now that's an option to them. They can have a hot lunch because they're home and I can make it fresh. Their school day, quote unquote, is significantly shorter than what it is, with the public school. They're not out of the house for 6-7 hours a day going to school. And so it's there's sort of a rhythm to it, and I think if you're able to do that, it just in the long run goes to benefit everybody, and it's more in line with our natures.
Well, it's actually harmful to leave your children with strangers. Way back when we first started this channel, I was part of a stream. We were talking about the harm that leaving your children with strangers caused. And this is actually statistical data. This is proven data that when you leave your children in daycare, for instance, so that you can go to work, it harms them. It harms your bond with them. And it fundamentally changes them. Think about what we're doing to children these days, for goodness sake. But just the act of forcing that separation, it's all by design again. It's to break those bonds. It really is unhealthy for both you and your children. It's unhealthy to live in a society full of strangers. We need these bonds. We are social creatures. We are doing ourselves no favors. And I'm just as bad as everyone else for making excuses for doing this. But the reality is, we're not going to succeed if we keep getting in our own way. A quick joke from Johnny Not Pal. My local police station had its toilet stolen. Apparently no arrests have been made. They had nothing to go on. And a serious comment here from Dave. I have lived on my street for 20 years. It's a cul-de-sac. So no reason not to know anyone. I know the name of precisely one neighbour. No sense of community here. That's incredibly sad, actually.
Incredibly bloody sad.
But I bet it's really common. Too common. That's the kind of thing we need to change. And there are many ways, again, that you can break the ice with your neighbours. It doesn't have to be anything to do with anything controversial. You don't have to talk about the current situation. You could just say, oh, a bit worried about the food situation. Have some seeds. Or have you been growing food this year? I might have a few leftover seeds if you'd like them. Or you can talk about, preparing for goodness knows what's coming, just making sure everyone's safe, working together. It's really important that we do break these habits. Really important. But at the moment, the way I see it is this. We are living to work, and we should be working to live.
And I think that's, for me, that's why I started doing all of these little things, is because it brought me satisfaction. It was good for my sort of mental health, right? And if you can do something small, even talking to the neighbor or getting to know them, and that's not a small thing, I'm not saying it is, but in terms of effort, in terms of time and resources, going and talking to the neighbor, it doesn't have to be an in-depth thing. It can be a 20-minute conversation, it can be a 10-minute conversation. But you'll come away with the satisfaction knowing that you tried something. And that's just one more thing that you've done that you hadn't done yesterday.
Yeah.
And all of these things that we're talking about, it's going to be different for everybody. We can share with all of you what we've done and what we hope to do. and how we hope that it will affect change, elsewhere. But it really is personal to each person, and even if someone does the same thing, like gardening, for example, your garden is going to look different than mine, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be the same.
Yes, because you're getting back to the personal aspect of it. Everyone has a different vision for what they want. I think we're all on board with the general vision of what we want. But you will have different taste to your next door neighbour and to another neighbour. You will create the things you enjoy, the things that give you pleasure. Whether that's something you want to look at when you stare out of a window, whether it's the food you make, the time you spend cooking, preparing, how you like your home to be cleaned, how you like your cushions to be plumped. It doesn't matter. This is always about you.
And you don't have to do it all either. Like that's the other thing is, you don't have to do everything. There is nothing wrong with buying something because you just don't want to. You don't want to make a pie because you hate making pies. So you prefer for a special occasion to go to the local baker and buy a pie. Okay, don't make pie. If you really hate it that much, don't do it. Support your local baker who will make the pie. There's nothing wrong with spending money and buying things, and even if that's because it's a convenience.
Yes.
It's just for me personally, if I can do it myself, I would prefer to do it myself. But I know I can't do everything, and I don't want to do everything. Like there are some things that truly do not interest me in the slightest.
Well, life has become very convenient, hasn't it? And the reality is, it's going to take us a long, long time to give up all of those conveniences. As long as you're supporting your local community, keep buying those conveniences. It's absolutely fine. This is not a judgment issue. You don't have to be doing, A, B, C, D, E, and F to be considered a good person or a good parent or a good housekeeper or homemaker. Do what suits you.
But I think a lot of us get stuck in this trap of all or nothing. I have to either do it all this way or I will do nothing this way.
Yes, setting yourself unattainable goals, which results in failure and then demotivation. Then you just think, well, I can't possibly do this.
Right. Well, and one good example, okay, so I've just said I really don't like buying things from Amazon. And I don't, and I do avoid it when I can. However, as I'm sitting here chatting with you, my daughter and I are putting together a lovely loom I just bought.
Yes.
I know, I'm very excited. I'll share pictures later. But when I went to actually purchase it from the company that I had done the research on and wanted to purchase it, they wanted like $140 in shipping. It was astronomical. So I looked at Amazon and they weren't charging anything for shipping. So I ordered the exact same loom, the same sort of maker and everything from Amazon, but it didn't cost me the $140 in shipping. And I really hate that I had to buy it from Amazon, but that $140 that was too much for me. So I've still got the loom that I wanted. I'm still going to be able to do what I want with it in terms of, making cloth and all of that. But it's one of those balance things, right? Like we're still stuck in this system that is set up the way it is, and we can hate certain aspects of it, and
we use the system
do what we
create
can to avoid it.
Yeah,
right. But that's what it is. That's what it is. It's I'm using the system to get this particular item because the cost was so much on getting it shipped from sort of this other company. And, so I don't feel badly for using Amazon in that regard because I'm using Amazon.
And,
to further my end.
And Boudica's such a superstar, she's going to use this one loom to put Amazon out of business. Mwahaha. We just don't know. The point is, she's using the system to create the new system. And that is how you have to look at it. If you are forced to do these things, you haven't failed. But if you can avoid doing these things, if you can find a local supplier and their prices are reasonable, and you might pay a bit more because they're not able to hold thousands of units of stock, just be sensible. Be sensible and don't see it as failure.
Yeah, if the shipping had been $20 or something, then I would have done it. But it was 140.
Yeah, that's enough money to buy another loom. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
I just want to say, Boudica, before we move on, a couple of comments about you. The first one from Reboot Needed. Boudica is an absolute hero, streaming and looking after kids at the same time. Total respect. She is a superstar. This lady has so much energy. I don't know where it comes from. And I would like to direct you to the chat. Will Free Gamer. There it is. Boudica is great. One in the chat for the Homestead Queen. And all of these ones, 11111, everyone has type 1.
Oh, you guys are too kind.
So there you go.
You're too kind. But I will share the fabric.
We're not worthy. Absolute star. So, yes, on this note, we want to talk about the Freedom Challenge. I bet you're all wondering what the hell we're talking about. We will explain. I'll let Jordan explain.
Well, first things first, a little video.
Oh, yes. I do apologise. I should have been on that, shouldn't I?
You should have been.
Here we go. And coming up, I'll try and fix it. And coming up. That totally failed for me. I hope it worked for the chat.
It failed for me and all. It worked for everyone else.
Did you see the entire video, chat? Can you confirm, please? Because all I saw was the end and it faded out. This is professional television, don't you know? Yes, freedom challenges. What do we mean by freedom challenges, Jordan? When you finish laughing,
sorry,
it's all good.
This is the most us thing that there's ever been. Freedom challenges.
How long was it? Hang on. Santi's asking how long was it?
It was about 8 seconds.
We haven't given Johnny Not Power. We're still doing the prep challenge. This is something new we're introducing. 5 seconds, lol. Yeah, it's a very quick. It's like a little jingle. Okay, good. We're good. Carry on. Play it again.
No, we'll play it again later on, if you like.
It works.
The prep challenge is the freedom challenge. The freedom challenge is an extension of the prep challenge. It is basically the prep challenge on steroids. It is the one order of magnitude above prepping, because it encompasses everything, and it will include things such as challenging ourselves to actually go out and buy from the local community, for example. Buying with cash instead of credit cards, networking amongst locals. Various things like that. And this is really where we need your help. We'd like some other ideas.
So what we want to do is build up a list of freedom challenges that we'll put up on the website. We encourage you all to go to the website. It's wardens.community, nice and easy to remember. And we want to put this list up on the website, and we will go through a challenge per week along with the prepping challenge, because once again, there's a lot. There is such a lot. And we thought, what if we put it into some kind of list and we'll work our way through it together? So that's what we're going to do. Thank you. Philomena has posted the link to the Wardens community website there. We need to be proactive. Again, bear in mind Boudica's message. You're not doing this for anyone else. You're not doing this for credit or for, any kind of reputational aspect. You're doing this for yourself. You're doing this because you know that you were born free, that you deserve to be free, and that you are not currently free. We will get there, but we're not there yet. This is why we need to go through these challenges. So how we start is by taking on these challenges one at a time. So again, to bring up the comment, was it reboot needed? The email from the bank.
Yes.
I don't know why I keep forgetting this. I'm so sorry.
I don't know why either. It's quite an astounding email. Or letter, rather.
This is my brain. The next time you play it, can you play it on the slowest speed, please? I don't even know what you guys are complaining about. I caught the last second. But anyway, yes, so when you've got banks emailing you because you are spending cash instead of using your debit card, that scares them. This isn't just about using us as cash cows. This is about surveillance and control.
Really, the letter may as well have just said, "Excuse me, sir, but do you realise you're trying to escape us? This is not allowed. Please explain why you're trying to escape us. Why are you trying to leave me?
Why are you trying
to girlfriend?
Why are you stopping us from surveilling everything you do? Why are you stopping us from having this control over you?" It's truly sinister, the content of that email.
Letter.
I thought it was an email. Apologies. Well, so I forgot that part as well. There you go, reboot. You see, I'm not the information person. Exactly. Why aren't you telling us what you're doing? Or Sir Francis might be better. Don't leave me this way. But it is. This is about surveillance. This is about, they want to know everything you do, when you do it, where you do it. They want to know what money you're spending, what you're buying, where you're shopping. This is genuinely sinister. This is the power they have over us. Not the power that they're doing this, because we still have the choice to engage or disengage. The fact that they have the sheer cheek to demand answers, to demand that you explain yourself. That's truly sinister. That's terrifying. One Easy Money makes a really good point here. They're afraid we're going to make a bank run all at the same time. I'd love to see a run on the bank, honestly. I'd love to see these people genuinely afraid after the decades and centuries they've spent robbing us, selling us fake paper money and then taking our real assets when we can't pay off our debts. But truly, this is very sinister. But imagine now if everyone was doing this, if everyone was just drawing out their cash and spending it willy-nilly without surveillance and control. If one person scared them to the point where they got in contact, imagine if 1,000 people did it or 1,000,000 people did it. That's the power running through your veins right now. We've always had the power to create the kind of world we want to live in. We've always had it. Each of us individually can make changes. You know what they say, if they strike us down, we'll become even more powerful than they can imagine. I totally butchered that quote, but you get my point. Yoda was right. Oh, that was Obi-Wan Kenobi. I butchered that as well. I'm going to stop now. Reboot Needed says, if everyone walks into a bank tomorrow and withdraws their savings, that's game over for them. Well, again, we're not here to harm any part of the system, because ultimately we cannot worldwide get people to act as one. Not yet. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. But individually, you can empower yourself, and that's where we're at. That's the stage we're at. Obi-Wan Kenobi, that might be my favourite comment this evening. That's so good. But yes, so this is about personal empowerment. This is about personal responsibility. We are either responsible for upholding this system that hurts us, or we are responsible for working towards a new system that helps us, that is designed for us, designed by us. So that's what this is about. So we would like your suggestions for freedom challenges. So can everyone in the chat, please, who wants to take part, suggest something we can put on a list? One thing that you can do that will empower yourself. Jordan's mentioned a few, like using cash instead of a card. If you want to go a step further and you have this set up, don't use cash at all. There are lots of other currencies around that you can use. What were the others, Jordan? Supporting
I
local,
ran out of ideas.
supporting local shops and farmers.
That was
Again, you're not going to hurt these big corporations. Exactly. Johnny Not Powell says, you can take the cash, but they'll just print more. Put it into something tangible. Just by helping yourself, you're hurting them. If you just withdraw your cash, you're not hurting them and you're not helping yourself. But if you do something with that cash, if you invest in yourself, or you invest in a local business by shopping there, or you invest in a project with your neighbours or your friends or whatever group you're a part of, and that project turns into something that's beneficial, that's how you hurt them, by helping yourself. It's a transition period. The more of us that turn away from the bad things, the unhealthy things, the depraved things, and into more wholesome, good, productive, healthy things, that's how we win. That's always been the way. And the more people that are encouraged to do this, the more people will come together, and the more people will not be alone. Andrew suggests taking up an art, craft, or other potentially marketable skill. Marketable or not, it's really good for your psyche to do something pleasurable. You might be interested in painting. You might enjoy drawing. You may pick up something that you haven't touched for years because guess what? You've been too busy working. So Will says if you have some money, invest in something tangible. That's a good challenge in his opinion.
I agree with that.
Buy gold and silver. Can we ask everyone, as always, can you please jump over to our Telegram chat and write these suggestions in there? Because I can't do anything with these, unfortunately. All I can do is highlight them on the screen. I can't copy them. Can we drop the link to the Telegram chat, please? In fact...
Can do. Give me a moment.
Thank you. And again, the steps that you take, as Boudica very rightly said, will be personal to you. You may not be in a position to buy gold or silver. You may not be in a position to start using cryptocurrencies. You may not be in a position to get down to your local farm shop. But there are still things you can do. And this is no guilt trip. This is no, you must do these things or you failed. This is if you do one thing and it's successful, you have achieved something amazing. You've taken the first step to being truly free. And we want everyone to be free. We want everyone to be free to make their own choices, to do what is best for them and their families. And it starts here with these steps. Thank you, Philomena. There you go, everyone. There's a link to the chat. Please get over to our Telegram chat. On that note, we will be in the Telegram after the stream this evening, if you'd like to join us there for a little chat. It has been a while since we've had a catch up with you all. If anyone is a bit shy, doesn't want to get on the audio straight away, absolutely fine. You can listen in and type. The good old mute button's still in effect if you want to use that instead. There, again, the link has been posted for you, so we will be going there directly after the stream. Or at least after the stream, minus probably a trip to the loo and a refill of something. But yes. So if you could pop your suggestions in there, we'd be very grateful. So that is the Freedom Challenge. Undecided Freedom Challenge. But as always, we do things for and with and by this community. If you help us to create the list, we hope that you will feel more of a sense of achievement when you achieve those things on the lists. So, Jordan, what else did we want to cover this evening?
Prepping challenge. Yes,
indeed. So, as always, the prepping challenge is ongoing. Boudica wasn't here last week. Do you know where we're up to with our prepping challenge, dear?
I don't know what it was. I know you guys were talking about it, but I wasn't sure. What was the challenge?
So we started off... Oh, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, last week was like canned meals, as it were. So chilies and things like that.
Obviously, nothing beats a homemade meal and a homegrown meal, but we're starting off with the things because, it's getting close to Christmas and there's a lot of nonsense going on in the world right now. We wanted to make sure people were covered for the basics. So we started
Oh,
off
yeah.
with food, and we've covered so far soups and meats.
If you can find stuff on sale when you do go to the grocery store, because I have no illusions that that's still going to be a thing in our lives.
I want to try that.
But if you can find stuff on sale, and you're in a position where you can buy a few extra, like that's a great way to save money and still produce homegrown meals.
Yes. As you said earlier, not every aspect of your meal has to be something you've made yourself or grown yourself. But that sense of satisfaction is going to be amazing even if you cheat one portion of it, but you still make a meal from scratch. Aside from that one aspect, that's still something amazing. I think there are a lot of people out there who don't enjoy cooking. When you only have time to come home before you fall asleep because you're so exhausted, because all you've done is shove a pizza in the oven or a pie or something. Making time for these things is important, certainly. But there's a lot of ideas you can get from preparing food in advance. Slow cooking is my big thing. Like one-pot meals. We really want to focus on one-pot meals this winter. Because it's so easy. You throw everything in, you switch it on, you can just come back to it when it's ready. Sorry, I have to mention this.
Well, and
So
I was just going to go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, canned chicken is unforgettable. Yeah, chicken in a can. No, we're not doing that. Carry on, Boudica. Sorry.
I was just going to say, with the one-pot meals. Oh, go ahead.
No, go on, Boudica. I don't know what happened with Joe there.
Just ignore me.
With the one-pot meals, you have to remember too that that's how our ancestors ate too, right? So that actually, it not only is it easy, quick, convenient, and inexpensive, and nutritious, but that's how our ancestors ate. They would, especially in the winter when food stores were sort of limited in their variety, they would throw all their root vegetables in with some stock or some water and a bit of meat and have a stew. And we had a conversation yesterday. I was talking about our gut biomes, how they are, our individual gut biomes are geared towards the food that we eat.
Yes.
And they're very much rooted in our cultural practices. So those one-pot meals, not only have sort of that practical aspect, but it's a cultural thing as well. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we're not designed to eat food from all over the place. It's just not. It's not part of our natural habitat. So these things can certainly have an effect on you. Daffyd has just said that he personally makes his own convenience food. Daffyd, as you are in the industry, maybe you have some suggestions.
Well, I think this here is his main suggestion. He has made 30 bottles of blackberry, 18 bottles of apple and pear windfall wine. Oh, sorry, and. I missed the and part. And is a crucial ingredient because there was no more. But there you go. That is what he has made.
Daffyd, opening your shop when? That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Well done.
The really, really important thing there is, blackberries, they're free. Admittedly, around me this year, we had a horrific blackberry year. There was hardly any, although, from my understanding, this is a rarity. Everywhere else, people are saying they're swamped with the bloody... Even you had some in your back garden, didn't you, Joe?
Yes, quite a few.
There you are. See, I had none. Everyone else had loads. It's very unfair. But the apple and pear as well is free. It's windfall. It's stuff that's fallen on the ground. Just need to go out and get it. Bit late in the year for that now, obviously. But this is the sort of thing that a little bit of a little bit of forward planning, exactly.
Yes,
a little bit of forward planning does you wonders rather.
I'm sorry I'm a bit late getting to this comment, but Will says, whose stash of booze is that? You're welcome in my bomb shelter. There you go, Daffyd. And Sir Francis says, that's Saturday night sorted out. There you go. Daffyd, I would definitely keep your location a secret. You could have some unexpected visitors. That's so great, though. Well done. But yes, planning. As Boudica just said, our ancestors used to cook this way. They had to. Mm-hmm. It was and as was just mentioned, if you're slow cooking food, you don't have to use the best cuts of meat. So you can use cheaper cuts of meat, which is going to save you money. which means you can buy more of it, which means you can do all the prep beforehand when you have the time. When you want to sit down and eat the meal, you literally have to serve it. It's brilliant for people with busy schedules, people with commitments, like if you're a carer or you have children to look after. It's fantastic. So we really want to start compiling some one-pot recipes, like winter warmers. And this is certainly the time to do it. So again, if you have any suggestions for those, please join us over on the Telegram. We're going to be there very shortly after the stream. And we will talk to you there. But feel free to share any of these tips. But getting back to the freedom challenge, that's the really important one, because I think all of this is good, but nothing is going to change unless we start to really create the kind of society we want to live in. And that means making these small changes. And if you have made a change that benefits you, then that's a knock-on effect. And you will make more changes that benefit you. And then other people will start to notice those changes and they'll start making changes. So that's where we are. Right, so without further ado, should we get on to the prepping challenge? Last week, we did ask you to buy some extra cans of, well, we went through all sorts of meats, and yes, as we mentioned, chicken in a can. So how do we get on with that, first of all? And then we'll set this week's challenge. Did everyone buy any sort of tinned casseroles or stews or spam, corned beef, tuna, salmon, anything at all? Anything you like?
I bought an extra 4 cans of chili.
I broke up then, sorry. 4 cans of...
I bought an extra 4 cans of chili. Unlike the corned beef the week before, I did not eat any of them. They're all intact. They're sitting in the cupboard.
Nice. Yeah, you can... Yummy Bear says you can store meat in brine or salt water. Yes, you can. This is another thing we want to really focus on as well, is preserving food. But that's a bit further down the line. It might seem so obvious to people who are already doing this, and we're not being condescending in any way, but we know that people are at different stages of this journey, and we thought it might encourage people to start if we did this together. But I know that many of you will be so much further ahead than this. And thank you, as always, for your suggestions. Really, really helpful. Thank you. My step does not mean said I only got started on the tin soup. Again, it's not a race and it's not a competition. It's just to encourage people to think about picking up these things. I've gone to the supermarket before with a list and forgotten half of what's on it. Is anyone shocked? But I'll often get home and think, oh, I planned to pick up something and I forgot. So, you know, it's a good idea to keep this in your mind. Dave says, I still have cans of tuna in the kitchen with a best before date of 2015. They're perfectly fine.
As far as I'm aware, canned foods just don't go bad. They have a best before date on them. I really don't know why. I don't believe they go bad. When they do go bad, you know they do because the can is bloated and there's damage on the can itself. But beyond that...
And I think that applies to all food, doesn't it? A lot of best before dates are just a marketing ploy to get you to throw things away and replace them.
Exactly.
Use your senses.
That's the most important thing. Use your senses. Use your common sense. Is it green and moving? Yes. Probably not good to open it and see if it's edible. Throw
Honestly,
that away.
If it's moving, put it out in the garden and batter it with a bat or something. That's just not right.
Put it out of its misery.
But yeah, if it smells bad or it tastes bad or it's, you know, it doesn't look right, I would suggest you probably give it a miss. But yes, I wonder if curry in a can is a thing, says Andrew. I sent Andrew a challenge. I've got a real issue with curry. And the challenge was for Andrew to make an English curry that's not called curry because like it's got to have a good old-fashioned English word.
So basically, make something that is not the original idea.
Like
make a casserole.
Like a spicy casserole, but that's native to England, and do your best with that with the spices. But you know,
mustard.
Well, Andrew's grown microgreens. Yeah, you could put mustard in it, and
you could have horseradish. There you go.
Yeah. Now this is what we're talking about. Reboot Needed bought a load of porridge this week.
Heck yeah,
5
that's how to
1K
do it.
bags. I bought 3K of porridge this week. So again, this list is not, you don't have to do everything we say. It's just to get you to think about things you normally don't pick up unless you're making a specific meal. It's good to have these things on hand. Well done, Will. 2 more tins of food, 1 of chili, 1 of spaghetti and meatballs, and found 4 cans of tuna in the cupboard. There you go.
Well done.
You're winning. How's it feel to be winning, everyone? This is winning. We're getting ahead. We're not waiting for someone to ration our food or tell us what we can buy and when we can buy it. We are planning our own meals. We are planning our own future. So Francis has got loads of tins of soup, beans, tomatoes, some jars of jam. There you go. Good. This is winning. Roy, yeah, that's not quite what we had in mind. Roy says, best way to store food is keep it alive, hence my basement guests. Well, yeah, I think that's enough of that, Roy. Yeah, so again, don't feel like you have to buy everything on the list. Buy the things that you know you will eat. Buy the things that you like. It's always worth having some backup reserves. That's all we're saying. And the list is just to prompt you to think about these things when you go shopping.
Now, I've just posted something over on Telegram. Of absolutely no importance whatsoever, to be honest with you. But if you want to see a minor upcoming project I have, there you go. And there's
Very
like
nice.
one weirdly decent photo. It's kind of off-putting to realise how good it was by accident.
So are we moving to Telegram?
We are going to shortly.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Hey, and good news, my power is back on. I was telling everyone, I was telling Joanne and Jordan earlier that my power has been out all day. Thankfully, it's still daytime here for me. So, but I'm kind of looking at my phone battery going, ooh, I don't know if I could do the Telegram chat because I'm kind of getting low, but power's back on.
Yay. Long life milk, yes, we're definitely going to cover that. Roy suggested slurry. And Michael, hot gravy. There you go, Andrew. There's a few ideas for names for your English curry. Okay, right. So this week's challenge. Well done, everyone, by the way. Yes, thank you, Will. Yeah, this may seem silly to some people. If you've always had a good stock of food and maybe you've not gone without, or maybe you've never had an emergency, they can happen anytime for any reason. So it's always worth making sure you have some supplies. You just never know. And let's face it, things are a little bit topsy-turvy right now. And with all the things that people are worried about right now, I would, like to think that knowing you've got some food back up is one less thing to worry about, right? One less thing to be stressed about.
Well, look at me. I mean, the power went out today all of a sudden right before lunchtime.
Yeah.
And my children were going, what are we doing for supper? And I'm like, if I have to, I will build a fire out in the fire pit, and I have cast iron cookware, and we will cook something on the fire tonight.
There you go.
And I'm yeah, so you never know.
Be prepared. We're all little Boy Scouts right now.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I have cast iron cookware. I mean, I use it all the time on my regular stove, and I have it because I prefer to use it, but it also doubles as being able to cook over a fire because, I mean, I'm on the west coast of Canada. I'm in an earthquake zone. Like natural disaster, it can happen, right? So,
yes.
And my children sort of make fun of me sometimes. It's like, oh, you're waiting for the zombie apocalypse. It's like, well, no, but, things happen.
But if it happens...
if it happens, they're still going to eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I mean, if we had a major earthquake here, I mean, we've been told that we could be looking at upwards of 2 weeks before power is restored, before emergency services and stuff gets in, and yeah. So I mean, and that's probably a more realistic scenario for me instead of a zombie apocalypse, is the potential of an earthquake. And so it's like, okay, how do we cook for 2 weeks? Because, the freezer is going to be gone, the fridge is going to be gone. We're going to have to do a lot of cooking. How do we cook? Well, I can't use like a regular frying pan or regular pot over an open flame, but I can with cast iron. And I use it every day anyway. Like it's not it's not that I've packed it away, and we'll break it out if there is an emergency. I use it all the time. But at the same time, if there is, sort of a natural disaster or whatever, I just carry on using it. And that's what I've done with a lot of stuff. Like I've got a gravity-fed water filter, which we use every day. But at the same time, if we had to start, collecting rainwater, or if our potable water out of our tap was no longer safe, I've got a way of filtering it. So again, I use it every day, but at the same time, it will double its sort of purpose, in an emergency situation.
Yes.
So yeah, having that extra food on hand, even if you have to eat it cold, whatever it might be, it's always handy to have. Yeah, exactly. So anything that you can put aside, I think a lot of us think that, okay, we're going to see some rather world-ending events coming up, and maybe we will, who knows? But at the same time, there are plenty of other sort of more realistic and more natural problems we can run into, job loss, or food shortage, or food increase in prices, and maybe you won't be able to afford to buy as much, or right? Like there's lots of practical reasons.
Well, yes, as Reboot says as well, it's not just about prepping, it's about high inflation rates. It makes sense to buy next year's food today. Again, this comes down to, it's really important that you just said about job loss. We've not talked about that yet, but with the current situation, the reality is nobody's job is safe. Because rules can be made after the fact of you joining a company. The reality is anyone could lose their job at any time. If you are in a position to buy these extra bits, a couple of extra cans or whatever, each week, you're going to cover yourself for a few months. If the worst should happen, you've got that breathing space, and that's always worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, because there might be a solar flare tomorrow, there might not be, but you just never know.
Exactly.
There's so many different reasons why any of us might find ourselves in a difficult position, and not having any food is a pretty dire thing, and you don't want to be there if you can help it.
Absolutely. Michael says buy camping gas for an emergency. That just reminded me. I kept back a couple of bags of charcoal this summer just in case the worst should happen. So
now's a good time to buy.
If you know of a local store, and again, if you're on a tight budget and you can't afford to go to a more expensive store, to support a local business, don't feel like you'll be shamed for it or anything. This is about making sure you are safe. So if you have to go to a big supermarket and buy food that's discounted, or you have to go to an outlet store or whatever, it doesn't matter. We need you to be safe. That's all we want. This is the time to prepare. Once we've got these basics sorted, once we are in a position where we've got food and water and all of our basic needs covered, that's when we start building. But we have to get this right first. We have to be in a position where the only thing we need to worry about when we start building is building, because that will speed it up. It will speed up the momentum. If we're stressing about food that we don't have or money that we don't have, it's all going to come crashing down. People are going to lose motivation. They're going to get depressed and demoralized. This is the way to get out ahead of it. Again, these companies are rationing food. It's up to you now whether you want to be in charge of your own fate. You can decide what you have, or you can let them decide what you have. It's really that simple. So I think Daffod is asking, does Boudica have a cauldron? I wouldn't be surprised. She's so prepared for everything.
I'd like one.
Genuinely envious.
I would like one, but no, I don't have one. I do have a cast iron Dutch oven, though.
There you go. Good as.
There you go. Yeah.
So
Next
onto this
best
week's onto this week's challenge then. Before we jump over in the Telegram, this week's
veggies.
challenge is vegetables. They're so incredibly inexpensive, tinned vegetables. Again, not as good as getting them fresh from your farm, but they will do in a pinch, and they will last a long, long time.
Exactly. Your tinned sweet corn, your tinned carrots, your tinned
Peas, beans, all of it. They're just anything.
Whoa. No, we're not including beans in on this. Beans are their own.
I do apologise. I should have said broad beans. When you mentioned peas, I was jumping straight to that. But yes, anything that can be basically put into salt water and tinned. There you go. And that includes potatoes, by the way. Again, not the best product in the world if it's been tinned, but better than nothing.
Well, you dump them into a stew, problem solved.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if they're a bit soft, because they're going to be soft anyway. They're in a bloody stew. Oh, we're coming up to the dried stuff, David.
We're going through all of it, David. Don't you worry. Although we'd really like your input.
We have a list, actually. While we're on this subject, we have a list. It is over on the website. People can go see it under, for some reason at the moment of the broadcast schedule. Don't ask why. But you can go and take a sneaky peek and make it better. You can have a look at what's there. And
can I throw in one thing with the vegetable challenge? If someone's feeling up to being really productive, if possible, if you can find it locally, or like if you can find it on sale, whether it's like a supermarket or whatever, actually can it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's an idea.
Well, yes, always. If you're in a position to do any of these things yourself, then please do. And also, please share the process. Please take photographs or video so that you can inspire others. Will says canned lima beans are not actually edible. They're like a gag gift. Maybe that's a spare Christmas present you can give to someone you hate this year. If you end up with some lima beans, there you go. Thank you for that, Will. So there you go, everyone. That is this week's challenge. Canned vegetables. They are incredibly cheap. I've got tins and tins and tins of vegetables. I still go for fresh vegetables for as long as they're available. But this is another thing, and this is another stream, but we need to get back to seasonal buying. But that is another topic. We're about out of time here. Have we missed anything tonight, George?
We have. You all missed the most important thing. We have a new series coming up, everybody. It is going to be an Odyssey exclusive. We don't entirely know where it's going. The fact that it's an Odyssey exclusive says everything you could possibly want to know. It's not like the content we've done before, let's put it that way, but you may not enjoy. It will be coming out on Monday at 7:30.
Yes.
As of now.
I would just say, as this particular podcast goes along, we're not constrained by certain limitations for this podcast. Indeed. As we are on the live streams.
The first episode may be a little weak. The second and third, I quite enjoyed them. They were a good time. Joe kept... What happened was we were recording them, and I was bloody tired. And Joe said, "Do you want to do one more?" And I said, "Yes." And I had a good time. And then Joe said, "Do you want to do one more?" And I said, "Yes." And we had another good time. Come this time, about 11:30, I was bloody knackered. I'd been up since 4 that flipping morning. And
you
Joe
do your best work when you're a zombie.
Yeah, I know. And Joe said, "Do you want to do another?" And I said, "No, I don't. I want to go to bed." And then I hung up.
Yeah, just abandoned me. Brilliant.
That was it. The Odyssey streams, 10 out of 10, in my opinion.
I will say, yeah, my step does not mean just said having problems with Odyssey. I think once they go out as an initial premiere for Odyssey, we will put them on the Telegram.
Indeed.
So if you don't get them live, and they're pre-recorded anyway, but if you don't manage to get over to Odyssey, you can pick them up on the Telegram. So, yes, thank you, everyone, as always. What a fantastic community we have. Thank you, Boudica, for joining us. Yay!
I always like coming on, so thank you for having me. And
it's always a pleasure.
Sorry about the dog. Yeah.
No. We love the dog, and also thank your children. Thank your children. It's truly something that when we talk about children, it's almost always in the abstract. It's really nice to hear you interacting with your children on the stream. It's such a rare thing.
I don't know what you mean. I should deal with you every day, Joe.
Oh, shut up. I tried to do something nice. You see, men. No, I'm joking. You men are great. Jordan, you're a pain. Right. Anyway.
Anyway, I'll get to the principle because you're taking too long. I've posted.
Thank you all.
I've posted the Telegram chat into chat. If you want to join us, we will be there shortly. We need to, or at least I need to, which is where I'm going now. See you later on. I need
refreshment too. Yes. Give us 5 minutes and we'll see you there. Bye for now.
Bye for now.